Garth, which would you be categorized as if we were talking about reviewing your hands and actually playing? Are you aiming to be a top player or are you a recreational player?
Yeah, boy, I'd have to say...
Engage. It's the Mahjong 10 YouTube channel.
Welcome to Pro Asked, a show of roasting pros. Who's roasting whom? Mostly everybody. Come along as we pick the best minds in the game to better understand the things we do wrong.
In this show, every week we feature one streamer. We check out their VODs and go through one hand. I say every week. That is very ambitious.
Aspirational.
But as often as I can edit episodes, we feature one streamer. And we also have one guest pro from JPML to help us analyze the hands. We don't only analyze people's play. It's more about just finding situations where we want to ask pros who are better than us about how they would play. And this week's featured streamer is RPG Reki-san. He is one of my favorite streamers because he always shows up in other people's chats also to support the community, and he streams on Ronron, which is awesome.
Very cool, yes, to have people moving throughout the community. Another longtime participant in the community is today's special guest, Shintaro Konno. He's been part of Renmei since last millennium, when he started his career by winning Shinjin O, the rookie clown.
Rookie cup?
I was going to say...
I think it's a rookie cup.
Rookie cup, okay. He is currently just a bit short of third place in the A2 League, and thus advancement to Renmei's premiership, A1. You may know him for his photogenic style as Mafia Hitman on the Mahjong Fight Club, but we know him as perennially lovable and another irreplaceable part of the Renmei machinery, without whom the whole thing would just fall apart. Welcome to the show, Konno!
Yokoso! Konno-san is another pro that we have been just really good friends with for almost 2 decades. He's gone with us. He's been to Macau with us. We've traveled to tournaments and we've done like study sessions, and so it's truly just as exciting as having Kawari for me because it's just old friends getting together talking about Mahjong.
A big maker of tournaments working too. Basically, if you want to have a tournament run smoothly, put Konno in charge.
We actually have some questions from viewers about tournaments for Konno-san. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Okay, let's get into our hand for today. This is actually our first VTuber.
VTuber.
Yes, Reki-san is a bunny VTuber. This is the very good-looking bunny. We also have the very cute little bunny. Okay, here's the starting hand, and you'll notice that Reki-san doesn't always do the auto sort. Sometimes he moves the tiles around, like the ones he wants to discard, he puts on the edge. So it's the south round, the first hand. The Dora is the 5 of Bams, and our hero is the east player, the dealer.
Just wondering about that. Do we think that there's any benefit or reason to do that, or does it help you think about the play in a certain way?
全然どっちでも大丈夫です。このままでもいいし、no problem.
Some people find it easier to concentrate if they have to pay attention to where the tiles are. I mean, at first when you look at this, I'm kind of thinking Chanta. Outside hand. I want to hear what an expert thinks. What's the first thought?
パッと見て順ちゃんですよね。3色はまだちょっとなんで、順ちゃんを見たいですよね。で、内局の親番で、2着目で、上はね、3人で競ってるような感じですよね。だからこの手は上がってトップ目に立ってリードを作っていきたいところなんで、上がりを目指していくと。ただドラが嘘なんで、これ泣いちゃうとちょっと安くなっちゃう。だからなるべくなら泣きたくない。なるべく大きい手にしたいから。
When you look at this hand and you decide to make it, it's probably going to be Jun-chan. So does that mean you start with discarding the north tile? Because it seems kind of like if you're not thinking about Yaku at all, then all the logical tiles would kind of impede your Jun-chan, I think. The logical tiles to discard, except for north. It would be like north and 9 of Bam. I could see people discarding maybe the 1 of dots or something.
純ちゃんとかリーチのみでも OK であればペイから切るのが一番広いんですけど、純ちゃんを狙うとしたら多分3万が最終的にはいらなくなるので、3万から先に切っておいて 椅子番の形を作っておいて、明細といいますかね、先に3番切っておいて椅子番の可能性を低く相手に見せるっていう選択もあって、であとこの手まだちょっと遠いけどウーピンとかスーピン持ってくるといつも見えてくるので、だから例えばこの手で順ちゃん1本とかにしてローピンとかさすがにやりすぎかなと、一応一通の可能性もあるので、だからここで切る範囲としてはペイか3万ですよね。リーチのみでも OK でなるべく早く転売して先にリーチ打ちたいっていうんであれば目いっぱい打ってペイを切っておいて、これは3万あんまり裏目にはならないので、3万切っておいて裏目になるのは数万引いた時のね、マンズにベンツとかが裏目になるっていうことと、あと3万本になるぐらいですかね。なのであんまり裏目が少ないので、先に3万を切っておいて、イスワンの布石ですかね。先に街を作ってイスワンをちょっと隠すと言いますかね。
Okay.
Yeah, that is a huge point that I always miss, or I think one of my holes in my game. Decide the hand early and like, okay, obviously I don't need Ropin because I'm going for Junchan. Yeah, there's so many situations where you end up needing Ropin, or where you could use Ropin, that throwing it right now is just too early.
I think that watching a lot of people's streams, there's times when I wish that they would kind of have an idea of what it's going to be a little bit earlier instead of just discarding what you don't need. There's a lot more potential for hand planning, I think, than what I'm seeing right now. Over various streams. So, okay, let's see how Ricky plays this hand. He starts with the 9 of Bams, which is kind of the point I was making.
Okay.
And what exactly we're talking about, something that could have been avoided by discarding the north first. I didn't actually know what happened. None of us have seen this hand. We're all going into it
Watching
blind.
it fresh.
So now he's going to have to change the course from what we had originally decided for him.
So actually, could I ask a question about that? I make this kind of play often, and then as soon as I do it, I think, what am I doing? I already made the mistake. Why am I now trying to go back as if I'm going to erase the mistake when it's much even less likely that I'm going to be able to get back to this road that I wanted to take in the first place? Is it probably just a better idea to throw away Paso here instead of the 8 of bamboos instead of holding on the north?
いい順目のところで結局手牌に残しておくって余剰牌っていうじゃないですか。余剰牌って攻撃に使える牌であれば目いっぱいでやる方がよくて、守備で使うんであれば安全度が高い方がいいわけですよ。でパーソって段階だと例えば急走引き戻すぐらいしかないですよね。急走引いても振り点だし、でも今持ってきたように空走引いてくればもういらなくなるんで、なのでペイとの安全度比較したらパーソは切っちゃった方が、例えばね、いきなり2巡目にリーチ受けたりすることもあるわけなんで、ここは2巡目はパーソを切っておいた方が良かったかなっていう気はしますけどね。
Okay, and then here in the third draw, drew the red 5, which we haven't discussed red 5s yet today, but if you're playing on Ronron, you're going to come across red 5s. Now we have the red 5. Now we've discarded the 9 of Bams already, so Junchan is much further away than we had kind of hoped for Reiki-san. How do we change course here?
そうですね。もう赤嘘なんで、リャンハンなんで、で、もう、純ちゃんにはね、嘘なんで使えない範囲なんで、ここはパーソだと思うんですけど、その後ですよね、もう赤嘘でリャンハンあるので、役を何かつけたいと。で、この形であったらピンフかリーチが一番早いので、ここからは上がりに向けて目いっぱいに手を広げていっていいかなっていう感じになりましたね。
Okay, so not actually a huge loss by discarding the 9 first. We got it back with a double Dora, which is going to be pretty close to a Junchan score. Let's see how he navigates this. And that's what we would have done. He's
Useful.
Yeah, that's good. Just going for as many options as possible. I think that's kind of typical. Just kind of some stragglers that you can't really use coming in.
Finally.
Oh, this is a good one. So he discards the 1. It seems kind of fine to me. Besides the 1 of dots, which, I don't know, to me looks fine. That's fine. And then, are you looking at other people's discards at this point? is the question I always like to ask people.
相手は、まあだから早いかどうかを見たいんですけど、ね、自敗の出を見ると、そんなに遅くはなさそうですね。ただ、相手のね、プレイヤーがどういう戦い方をしてくるかちょっとわからないので、な感じで進めるんですけどね。だから例えばここ守備力を考えるんであれば、いいピンはね残しておいて、まあ、例えば9ピン切ったり、まあ、先にね3枚これって今リャンワンが3枚自分から見えたじゃないですか。なのでイスワンがいい町っぽく見えるんで、先に数万作っておいてね、3万切っておくとか、2人リャンワン切ってるってことは、その2人にとって3万は裏筋にも当たるので、先にね、3万を処理しておいてもいいかなっていう感じですかね。赤嘘を使うことを考えると、もうどうしてもこの手ってもう結構オーバーしてるんで、例えば、ピンズは多分2メンツでよくて、で、マンズが1メンツなんで、そう考えて、イーソーが頭で郵送で1メンツって考えると、9ピンとか、3万とかね、将来的に4乗杯になるんで先に切っておいてもいいかなと。で、おすすめなのはリャンワンが3枚見えてるんでイスワンがよく見えると。だから先にイスワンの形を作っておいて、将来的に危険になりそうな3枚を先に切っておくのがおすすめですかね。
Guys, what would you discard before you heard Kono-san's explanation?
I'd be going back and forth between E pin and Q pin. It's similar to what he said. Like I'm thinking if I want to use Aka Uso, my ments were pretty much decided. So using the 6, 7, 8, 9 Pinzu shape is not really going to be that useful. So I might as well throw a possibly dangerous Q pin. Saving the E pin on the other side of that 3 pin wall is probably going to be, the E pin is probably safer than the Q pin. So I'd probably throw the Q pin first. Like he says, your probability of getting screwed with Sanman, then you draw another Sanman or you draw Tori, is small. Man, I hate it when it happens and it really makes me like, oh God, I really screwed everything up. So I end up saving a lot of dangerous tiles in those situations, maybe not for quite the reward I should be looking for. So yeah, that's something I could add to my game is maybe throwing that more dangerous, possibly dangerous Sunmon, also setting myself up to look like I, don't really need Isuwan, a strategy that I don't always employ very well.
Well, after this now, I'm like, okay, I'm going to discard the 3 of cups. But I think a lot of people discard the 1 of dots here because it gives you more options.
Oh.
Okay, so he caught up. He still has, so now it's just like, actually there's a really a lot of options for Tenpai here. Any 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of dots and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of bams gives him Tenpai. Oh no, reach!
With Dora.
So he's Tenpai and the tile is safe.
こうなると、嘘切りでリーチなんで、こちらもね、嘘を切れるので、で、やめ待ちなので、追いかけリーチですかね。さすがに。他に、ね、取ってる配球ピン切るぐらいしかないので、これは嘘切って追っかけリーチかなって気がします。
Okay, because if you don't reach, then you cannot win because there's no Yaku in this hand. So, does Reki-san reach? He does.
Yay.
Yay, the hero. And then we just see what happens. There's not really anything else to do for this hand.
Catch the result of the hand. Does the hard work pay off? Or does he hand a reach stick and a few points? Oh, Lopin could have changed, but you don't know that's coming. So, oh, he does win the hand.
Yay!
上がりました。2000点ですね、親で。
2000ten. And then there were lots of reach stick. Okay, so that's our hand. So Reki-san has a way of winning by doing completely opposite of what I thought I would do. Yeah, but the main point here is like making a plan for your hand at the beginning. When you change course, maybe continue to change course instead of going to go back to the first course. Like you said, instead of keeping the 8 of bams on the second draw, you can just get rid of it. It's okay to tsumogiru. That's an important point too that we'll cover in later episodes. But we're going to move into some questions for Konno-san. Konno-san is not only like an expert teacher, because he's run many Mahjong Kyoshitsu classes and things like that, but also a very experienced tournament director. So the first question is, what is a good balance between study or review and playing games? From Korak-san.
麻雀に対するそのスタンス、関わり方、どれだけ麻雀においてどこを目指すか、トッププレイヤーを目指すのか、レクリエーションプレイヤーを目指すのかでだいぶ違うかなと思いますね。本当にトッププレイヤーを目指すのであれば、ものすごい勉強した方がいいと思います。だから対局、例えば1回半チャ1回やったら、多分配布にかけるのはその5倍とか全然かけてもいいかな。だから本当に1対1打検証するぐらいでいいかなと思いますし、レクリエーションプレイヤーでいいと考えるのであれば、もう別にパイフ見なくてもいいと思います。その時楽しければいいと思います。だからそれは自分がどうなりたいか、どこを目指すかでスタンスも変わってくるかなっていう気がしますね。
Guys, which would you be categorized as if we were talking about reviewing your hands and actually playing? Are you aiming to be a top player or are you a recreational player?
Yeah, boy, I'd have to say, I used to be much more oriented towards, aiming for being a top player. But lately, I would have to say my style has definitely become more recreational. There's not nearly as much reflection as I used to. But, I used to write about Mahjong a lot more, which just meant that I had to think about it a lot more. And you look at the hands, then you're also looking for hands that you want to think about and reflect more. So, yeah, it really comes down to what, like he says, what is your goal? Are you just trying to play to have fun, or are you trying to play to become, eventually you're going to get drafted by Emily? Choose one or the other and then really do it. Aim to have fun while you're playing, and don't be a crappy loser like I am when you're not reflecting on how you play anyway.
You are very welcome to continue writing about Mahjong. We still have a platform, and we have a lot of traffic actually to reachmahjong.com.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They still get like hundreds of clicks a month. So anytime you feel like writing again, dozo.
All right.
Kind of a follow-up question to the last one is, for online games, you tend to have the log and you can see what everyone else was doing. And also you can remember exactly what you discarded and everything like that. But it's obviously much harder to review live games where you don't have that record. So do you have any tips about reviewing your hands and stuff after you play live games?
これって結構難しくて、今ジェンも言ったように記憶違いもあるし、例えば相手に聞いても本当のことを教えてくれるかわからないので、だから、例えばね、その後食事とか行ってね、その麻雀について話したりするっていうのも、立派な勉強だと思うんですけど、なかなかね、ライブの反省点を見つけるっていうのは、例えば気になったところはメモしておくとか、記憶をちゃんと補足するような形は取った方がいいかなと思いますね。難しいんですけどね、余裕があればビデオ回しとかね、撮れたりすれば最高ですけど、自分の記憶だけだとなかなか難しいので、気がついたところはすぐメモを取るようにとか、できる環境であれば撮ったりするのがいいかなと思いますけどね。
And you'll also see at our live league games, there are a lot of people that have little memo pads, and usually it's after the game, but sometimes after a hand they might jot down something real quick while somebody else is paying points or something. Okay, well that's it for today's show. Thank you so much, Konno-san, for your insight. Thank you for answering these questions. I know everybody is really going to look forward to these answers. And Reki-san, thank you so much for sharing your hand with us. I hope that we weren't too harsh. Obviously, you won the hands. You're doing great. Hopefully, for everyone else, we provided a little bit of insight of what to think about while you're playing the hand. And if you want your hands featured on Prost, then please get in contact with us. Make sure you give us a VOD where you're playing Ronron or Tenho.
Yes, RPG Reiki, as they say in the business, kekka orai. The results speak for themselves. And that's it for today's show. Thanks to Konno for sharing his insights with Prost, and thanks to you all for watching. And be sure to join Jen and me again on our next episode of Prost on our journey to someday finally get enough advice to play like a pro.
Okay, thank you. ありがとうございました。
はい。
All right, bye-bye.
Okay.
Next time.
3区